So if you're looking to pass a job interview, what are the things that you need to do? One is clearly understand who you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. Having the ability to talk about yourself, answer the basic questions of tell me about yourself. These are questions that are going to come up in an interview. It's almost guaranteed. But how do you actually frame them? How do you build them into your interview? How do you make yourself more comfortable? At Think 180, I decided to look at these questions and answer them. I've done quite a few interviews and I've worked with people pretty much throughout my whole life. Um, the interview questions themselves aren't really that difficult. All interviews, I think, are going to take pretty much the same format in that the interviewer, the company is trying to find out who you are. They're trying to establish whether you're suitable for the role. They're going to look at your background. They're going to try and see what your personality is like. Equally, the interview is a two-way process, so you're getting your opportunity to ask the interviewer questions about the company. And clearly, if this is a job and if this is a position that you've been following and you've been looking at and chasing for a significant period, you've done your research. So you know exactly what the company is, you know what they're doing, you know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. So you can equally ask the company about them to see what they do, how they solve problems, how do they manage problems that they have, what do they do when they're going through a difficult period, what happened during XYZ when something hit the national newspapers, for example. I don't know. So it's a two-way process that equally while you've got strengths, weaknesses, and the ability to talk about yourself, you've got the opportunity to ask the company what they do. So throughout this, it's not really a course. This offering this collection of sessions where I'll coach you. I can talk to you. I've got over 20, 30, 40 years experience working with people, working in sales successfully. I've been an English teacher for nearly 15 years. I've always worked in people environments and I've always prided myself on being able to work with people and being able to understand people. So what I've decided is to transfer that skill into helping people with interviews, that being able to look at you, being able to talk with you, being able to find the deep responses that interviewers are looking for and being able to build that into a story that you can portray yourself positively in the most positive light possible with the interviewer has to be an absolute positive. It has to be an absolute must. Now, you can do this with friends, you can do this with family, but are they really going to be objective? Are they actually going to tell you that the responses you're giving are not the best responses possible? What you need is someone who's objective, someone who can stand back, someone who can dig deeper and ask the questions of why this is your strength, why this is your weakness. Is this the most appropriate response for being your greatest weakness? Now, we know more or less that significant numbers of people will talk about their biggest weakness being perfection. Okay, we're never going to do that. Now, you might be a perfectionist. There might be elements in your working history where you've demonstrated perfection, and we're going to dig down and look at that. But what I'm also going to do is work with you, and I'll have a look while I'm working with you to see whether perfectionism is, in fact, one of your weaknesses. Which, to be honest, if we're looking, if we're using perfectionism as a weakness, we're really trying to disguise perfectionism as a strength as being a weakness, and we know, of course, that's total bollocks. So, a weakness, if we're going to stick on weakness as a particular point, perfectionism is not. Uh, Being a perfectionist is not a weakness. What we're looking for as a weakness is trying to find something which is a genuine weakness. We all have weaknesses. Everybody's weak. I don't particularly like talking to videos, but here we are. Weaknesses is something that we all have. What do we do with the weakness? We overcome them. We try to turn the weakness if not into a strength, at least into a neutral or into a non-weakness. For the purpose of an interview, we don't necessarily need to have it turned into a neutral. We at least need to be able to recognize that it's something that we're not particularly good at, and we can address it. How do we address it? There are multiple ways, but this is one of the areas that will work out as I talk to you, as I listen to you. I'll find out what I think are your true weaknesses. And I've got plenty of examples of people who have weaknesses, really, really good weaknesses. So this is a process where we're going to sit and talk. I'm going to find out about you. We've got a long list. I've got lists of hundreds and hundreds of questions that we can expect to hear. We can look at different styles of interviews. I've worked with police, I've worked with sales, I've worked with financial, I've worked with lots and lots of places, but that's not really important. What's more important is how you look at yourself, the information that you give me, and how we can mold you into the perfect candidate. What I'm looking at as well is saying that this is a course, depending on who you are, depending on what your level is, depending on what your background is, we can sit and tailor these responses for each individual interview. From there, we know that we're going to be comfortable. And I've really lost what I want to say, and it doesn't really matter now because I've been talking for 6 minutes, which is cool.